Evening. How you doing? It's just gone 9 o'clock here in Portstewart in Northern Ireland. It's been a beautiful day here up on the north coast of Northern Ireland. Just watched a beautiful sunset. Um, Although the place is completely deserted. Usually at this time of the year, there are crowds and crowds of people here for the holidays. But because people are being wise and staying at home, it's very quiet here. So it's good to have you along for chapter 19 of Paperboy. Can't believe we're up to chapter 19. Tomorrow night is the final chapter. If you've just joined in and you've missed some of the earlier chapters, just scroll down my Facebook page and they're all there if you wanna catch up. So thanks for joining me. And as I say, this is chapter 19 of Paperboy, and it's all about the Westie Disco at the Lord Mayor's show in Belfast. And it's a chapter called Winners. The day of the Lord Mayor's show had finally arrived. Our eagerness in anticipating this event was second only to the excitement that had led up to the day of the now legendary Bay City Rollers concert in the Ulster Hall. In spite of my ongoing concerns about Sharon Burgess and the allegations of the wee Millie that Sharon fancied my big brother, today I was consumed with hope for a great victory for the members of the Westie Disco. The Lord Mayor's show was an annual event with a big parade through the city centre of Belfast, past all the bombed out shops and the city hall. Hundreds of people came out onto the streets to watch all the colourful floats, and there was music and dancing, as well as prizes for the best entries, and no rioting. It was a bit like the parade on the 12th of July, except there were fewer flags and less drink, but more girls and Catholics. This was not the first time that the members of the Westie Disco had entered a float for the Lord Mayor's show. The previous year, we had dressed up as the Wombles for our float, and we had been awarded a highly commended rosette for our efforts. My mother and Auntie Emma had spent weeks making Womble suits from old Saxon cotton wool. We had dressed up and got onto the back of a lorry to sing "Remember You're a Womble" around the streets of Belfast. I had been given the part of Tobermory, which I thoroughly enjoyed, until after hours of singing and dancing, my Womble suit got very hot and itchy. I endured this unpleasantness by imagining that I was an actor inside a Dalek on Doctor Who, as opposed to a boy inside a sack on the back of a lorry in Belfast. In spite of all the discomfort, it had been the best time ever. Children had waved and cheered at us all day long, and there had been a photograph of us in the Belfast Telegraph I delivered. The whole carnival experience had left us hungry for more. When Uncle Henry got the letter inviting youth clubs to enter this current year's Lord Mayor's show, he immediately brought it to the attention of the whole of the Westie Disco during a short lull between Boney M and the Brotherhood of Man, and all those consulted were unanimous. We definitely wanted to enter the competition once again, but this year we were far too grown up and cool to be Wombles. This year we wanted to enter the float as the Bay City Rollers. We had to come up with a colourful banner that reflected the theme of the show, which was Rebuilding Belfast. So my father came up with the slogan BCR, Build, Construct, Renew. My dad was a very clever man, you know. We soon got to work with all the preparations. It was a lot easier this year because most of us dressed like the rollers anyway, so there was no need to make special costumes for us. Our major task was building and painting a stage and banners to put on the back of the lorry. We used paint that my father had borrowed from the foundry, and some wood panels someone said had fallen off the back of another lorry. Belfast's Emporium of Fashion, John Fraser's, kindly donated sacks of tartan fabric fragments, and we painted and hammered and sewed until our creation was complete. Okay, I'll continue the story in a minute, but I just want to say hello to see who's joined me. Hi, Alan McLean and Mary Black and Nigel McComb. Hello, Fiona. Good to have you along again. And Sadie Hannah and Andrea. Hi, Marty McCauley, Mary Black. You're all caught up, yes. I know. Yes, it's true, Mary. I did kick Woody. I did kick a Bay City roller. I have to confess to this. So Ivan and Alan McLean, you got a sticky bun, a cup of coffee, and Paperboy. Well, what more could you ask for? Maybe a Paris bun might be more appropriate. Marty McCauley enjoying it greatly. Greetings from all the clan in California. Great to have the McCauley clan from the USA listening. Hello, Natalie Pound. Good to have you here. Who did an amazing job in the Paperboy musical. Yeah, but with the Bay City Rollers float, for example. Hi, Kenneth Glenville and Conor O'Neill. Glad to see you back, Sadie and Gillian, Brendan. Hello, Susan. Good evening to you as well. Hi, Glenn Bradley. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, Evelyn Brown. And hi, Mike Moran and Emer O'Callaghan. Hi, Ian Parsley. Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you, Jim Poole. Good evening, Donna Hunter and Fran O'Neill from Melbourne, Australia. Good day to you. What about you? We'll get a wee mixture there. And yeah, so it's good to have you all along. And I'll continue the story of the amazing Westy Disco entry in the Lord Mayor show as the Bay City Rollers. On the day of the show, our float was resplendent in tartan and packed full of tartan-clad teenagers in parallels on an unstable stage, singing roller songs at the top of our voices. 5 very lucky members of the Westy Disco had been chosen to be the rollers themselves. Unfortunately, I was passed over just in case, following my starring role as a Womble the previous year, anybody thought my parents were guilty of favouritism. This was outrageous. I was passed over. I felt because I would have made a far better Alan than Philip Ferris, who just kept saying as per usual that everything was Bay City bollocks. Heather Mateer with the breasts was chosen to be Les McKeown, and Irene Maxwell was Derek. I thought this was even more perverted than Patricia Thompson's recent triumph on the stage at Belfast Royal Academy as Huckleberry Finn, and I was amazed that the Reverend Lowe did not even attempt to intervene. Worse still, Titch McCracken was picked to be Woody, and I was so jealous I had an urge to kick him. It had never occurred to me that I might ever want to kick Woody again so soon. But I relented when I saw wee Titch on the day, still wearing his 2 tight pinkish parallels, as I assumed he would be enough pain already without an assault on his shins by the only pacifist Paperboy in West Belfast. However, apart from my righteous anger regarding these 2 major injustices, I had been looking forward to this year's Lord Mayor show to the extent I had almost forgotten the poisoned words of the wee Millie about Sharon Burgess and my big brother. Sharon Burgess was a dancer in the Rollerettes, and my big brother was Eric Faulkner on guitar. I had been keeping a close eye on them, like 007 trying to catch out a double agent, but as far as I could tell, there was still no spark between them. On the day itself, we were brilliant. My father had rigged up the turntable and speakers from the Westy Disco on the back of the lorry and had somehow plugged them into the engine battery. And so the rollers were blasting out up and down Royal Avenue and all around the City Hall. I'd taken out my brace and left it at home because I knew I would otherwise have great trouble pronouncing the lyrics of Summer Love Sensation. The crowds were smaller than previous years in case there were car bombs, but those who were there cheered and waved at us, especially parallels. It was amazing. We sang Shang-a-Lang and Bye Bye Baby a million times until our throats were hoarse, and we waved our tartan scarves until our arms were aching. It was a Saturday, and I had the belly telly and the Ulster to deliver that night, so I alone had to be careful to pace myself to ensure I would have sufficient energy left to carry out my professional duties later on. After we had encircled the City Hall, we went with all the other floats up to the Lagan Embankment, where everyone parked in long rows, waiting to be judged by the Lord Mayor and ladies in hats who were full of eager ings. This stop was timed to coincide with lunchtime so that everyone could get off their lorries, go to the toilets, and have a pasty supper and a juice from a wee chip van before doing their very best performance for the judges. Last year, we had been highly commended wombles, but this year we were determined to be winning rollers. Once our lorry was parked on the banks of the Lagan, we also had the opportunity to dismount and check out the competition. You couldn't see the other floats during the parade because they were either in front of you or behind you. But once the lorries were all parked together beside the river, you could walk up and down and assess your biggest rivals. We strolled up and down, admiring all the big fancy floats made of polystyrene, advertising banks and businesses. But it was the other youth clubs in our category that we were most interested in. There weren't very many youth club entries in the Lord Mayor's show because young people weren't allowed out much in the Troubles, so we were in a very strong position. Heather Mateer, obviously still on a high from being Les McKeown, finished her pasty supper first and grabbed my big brother by the tartan scarf, saying, "Come on and see who we have to beat this year." My big brother went along with Heather without question, and I duly noted that this did not appear to cause any upset to Sharon Burgess. Aaron Maxwell followed close behind the others, tartan scarves trailing from every limb. "Heather Mateer fancies him, you know," I said slyly to Sharon, "but he's only interested in Man United and girls that do gymnastics, so he is." There was no discernible response to the trap I had set. Sharon Burgess just continued dipping her last few chips into the residue of salt and vinegar on last night's Belfast Telegraph. Me and Sharon would follow shortly, but we had to wait around for Titch because he had spilled brown sauce from his pasty supper on his pinky's parallels. A crowd of wee lads dressed as pirates on a float from the shore road had immediately pointed at his trousers and started shouting, "Bay Shetty Rollers!" I had never seen Titch look so squandered as he ran away to look for a toilet where he could try and clean up his trousers before the judging commenced. A few minutes later, Titch emerged from the crowd, all traces of the brown sauce removed from his parallels. However, he had used so much water to clean off the stains that now his trousers had a huge wet patch in all the wrong places. The pirates from the shore road reappeared from the crowd straight away. Of course, this time they pointed at Titch, shouting, "Bay Pissy Rollers!" Poor Titch was so humiliated that he ran over and grabbed one of the pirates and told him that if he didn't shut up, he would kick him so hard he would be floating up the fucking Lagan in a bubble. Then, just as this drama was unfolding in front of us, Heather Mateer arrived back on the scene, out of breath and bearing tidings of great import. "We're up against the Belfast Girls Gymnastics Club," she screamed, "and they're miles better than us, and your big brother loves them, and you'll never guess who's doing DJ for them." "Where are they?" shouted Sharon. "Folly me!" screamed Heather, jumping up and down excitedly. She was once again in severe danger of splitting her parallels. This could be even more embarrassing from the last time for her because she still had to be Les McKeown up in a lorry in front of the Lord Mayor. Say hello to a few more people before we continue. Yes, hello, Fran from Melbourne, Australia. Hello to Michael McKinney, Ali Bennett, who never misses. Oh, you missed the start. I lost. Yeah, oh, you were lost in another book. Yeah, and hello, Jim Livingston and Ruth Blevins. It's great. So it is, says Michael. Lovely to hear that. Hi, Amy in the States as well. Yeah, so I'll continue with the story. We ran along the Lagan embankment for ages, knocking over a wee girl's poke and tipping over several Petra-like Labradors. Eventually, we arrived at the site of the very impressive float of the Belfast Girls Gymnastics Club. My big brother and Aaron Maxwell were standing next, gazing at the wonderful sight before them. I noticed, however, they were looking in slightly different directions. The gymnastics girls were wearing sky blue leotards and were dancing gracefully with ribbons and hoops to Demis Roussos and Dancing Queen. It was truly international. My big brother was almost drooling. It was pathetic. He was watching the gymnasts even more closely than he would have watched a football match with Manchester United. He had never seen so many gymnastics girls in one place before. I have to admit, it soon got my attention too. It was like watching a mini Miss World, only on a lorry in Belfast. I was beginning to enjoy the fact that there was one gorgeous wee girl that looked a bit like Farrah Fawcett Majors, when suddenly I remembered I was standing beside my girlfriend. I turned to Sharon quickly to pretend I had no interest whatsoever in the third gymnast on the left at the front, and I noticed she was looking upset all of a sudden. She wasn't paying any attention to me or the gymnastic girls. Sharon was staring at my big brother, and I could see jealousy written all over her face. Her lower lip was quivering, like when she had failed her 11 plus. But this was even more serious. This was the sign I had been watching for, but dreading. My girlfriend was clearly upset to see my big brother fancying so many gymnastics girls because she fancied him herself even more. Sharon spat out her chewing gum like a real Millie and said, "You think none of you wee lads had ever seen a wee girl in a leotard before?" Then, stating truth, "You're just jealous, wee girl. Everybody's saying you fancy Tony's big brother, and he doesn't fancy you back." I looked at Sharon sadly, while Titch looked at me sheepishly. Sharon looked away guiltily, but my big brother just kept looking at the gymnastics girls lustfully. The truth was out. I was raging. I immediately regretted all the tip money I had spent on Love Is cards for my girlfriend. I kicked myself for being so stupid and buying her Donny Osmond pyjamas for Christmas from the club book. I still had another 10 weeks at 39p to pay. "What's eating you, wee girl?" I asked sensitively. "What?" Sharon replied, as if I had interrupted a dream. "What's the matter?" I repeated. "Ach, nothing," she said stroppily. "Leave me alone, wee lad." She shouted and went off towards the Westy Disco lorry, all on her own. I let her go. "Tony to get near his big brother, you wee Millie," Titch called after Sharon. "Shut you up, Titch, you wee glipe," she shot back. "You can fancy two people at the same time, you know." I knew this was true. I fancied Agnetha and Farrah Fawcett Majors at the same time, but this was different. It made my sore. I had never seen Sharon Burgess like this before. She had never once been nasty to me before, even when I pinched her bum the night we went to the stadium cinema to see Jaws, and she had screamed louder at me than at the shark. But I wasn't stupid. Maybe the wee Millie girl in the jumble sale had been exaggerating, but I now knew for certain that Sharon Burgess fancied my big brother. It wasn't fair because she was lovely and I wanted her to be my own personal Olivia Newton-John. And my big brother preferred football to girls, and he preferred girls that did gymnastics anyway. It would never be the same between Sharon Burgess and me after that day. Our relationship was doomed. I accepted that we were not destined to be a forever couple, like Agnetha and Bjorn from ABBA, or Princess Anne and Captain Mark Phillips. It was over. Then, just when I thought the day could not get possibly any worse, I noticed who Irene Maxwell was staring at so intently. Standing at the very front of the Belfast Girls Gymnastics Club float, arrogantly doing DJ, with a dozen gymnasts in leotards looking up at him longingly, was no other than Trevor Bloody Johnston. I thought he was supposed to be in Bangor. "Oh my God!" shrieked Irene Maxwell. "Look, it's Big Jonty, and he's still as lovely as ever, so he is, and he still looks like David Cassidy, so he does." I suddenly had an urge to hijack this lorry and drive it into the River Lagan, where Trevor would get electrocuted by his microphone cable, after which I would remember I was a pacifist and do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on all the pretty gymnastics girls. "Bouchie, Jonty," shouted my big brother. "Bouchie," Trevor replied, proudly surveying his harem. "Do you need a hand?" asked my big brother with uncharacteristic helpfulness. It was unbelievable. Within minutes, my big brother had become a love rival, and now here he was helping out on a rival float with a rival paperboy. I wanted to shout out something damning like, "How's your asthma, Trevor?" Or, "What's it like visiting your dad in the maze?" I was torn because I knew deep down that Jesus in my heart would not want me to be so nasty, but the devil on my shoulder just wanted to see the reaction on the faces of the adoring gymnasts. However, before I even got a chance to do anything impulsive that I might have regretted later, Heather Mateer kept things moving along once again. "Come on, they're judging our float next," she shouted. We had to dash back along the lagging embankment at full speed. This time we knocked a wee boy off his roller skates and spilled the pensioner's tea from her thermos flask onto her knee. We just made it. Heather Mateer leapt up onto the stage first because she knew we couldn't start without a Les McKeown. Inevitably, her parallel trousers split once more, and she had to swiftly tie an extra tartan scarf around her waist so the Lord Mayor couldn't see her knickers. Titch and Aaron and me and my big brother were the last ones back onto the lorry, just as the Lord Mayor and the ladies with hats arrived, smiling appreciatively. My father pressed the button, and we were on. We sang and danced our hearts out in our efforts to bring a prize back to the Shankill. We did our best, and although the judges didn't look like they had bought too many Bay City Rollers singles recently, I was sure I could just about hear some very encouraging ings over the music. As Bye Bye Baby blasted out, Titch McCracken looked at me, then at Sharon Burgess, then at Eric Faulkner, and he shook his head. Once again, I wanted to kick Woody. As soon as all the judging was complete, the Lord Mayor and the ladies in hats walked along the embankment once again, this time with huge rosettes to attach to the winners' lorries. If they walked past your lorry, it meant you hadn't won anything, but if they stopped at your float, it was a clear indication that you had won a prize. We waited on our float with bated breath. It was a tense moment, like when the bomb disposal unit was checking a suspect device. Some people couldn't handle the pressure. Philip Ferris told Heather Mateer that her Les McKeown performance had been bollocks, at which point Heather flew into a rage, pulling his hair and kicking him between the legs. "No, that's your bollocks," she cried. Philip Ferris ended up on the floor of the lorry, clutching his groin, but no one would help him. Heather Mateer's parallels were further split by the kicking action, and she had to tie another 2 scarves around her waist because you could nearly see her bum now. Titch McCracken kept taking wee sly peeks. As this scuffle was breaking out, the Lord Mayor and the ladies with hats were approaching again. I could hear their ings getting closer. Would they stop? Were we winners? Were we losers? Were we brilliant? Or just a lot of dirt from up the Shankill who even had a fight at the Lord Mayor's show? The judges stopped beside our lorry. The teenage population of Upper Shankill held its chewing gum flavoured breath. There was silence. Everything was completely still, apart from all the tartan scarves blowing gently in the breeze. Then, as if in slow motion, like the bionic woman, one of the ladies in hats lifted a large rosette and firmly attached it to the front of our lorry. The rosette read, "Winner, second prize, highly commended." "Winner!" shouted my father. "Yo!" we screamed at the top of our voices. We cheered and shouted and then broke out into a spontaneous and never-ending encore of the Rollers' greatest hits. The Lord Mayor smiled, but the ladies back, looking a little, just stroked a dog that had growled at them. Within minutes, the engine of our lorry had started up again, and we began our victory parade back into town. As we turned onto the Ormeau Road, where they made bread in the big bakery, we passed the Belfast Gymnastics Club float. My big brother and Aaron Maxwell were once again distracted from their own performances by the performances of others, and so for a few minutes we had no Derek or Eric in our Bay City Rollers. I caught a glimpse again of Sharon Burgess checking out my big brother's attraction to the gymnasts. She had no chance. As I looked back in disgust towards the rival float, I noticed they also had a rosette on the front of their lorry. This one said, "Winner, first prize." It wasn't fair. However, once our rivals were out of sight, they were very much out of mind. As we arrived back in the city centre, we prepared for our mighty victory parade back home up the Shankill Road. As we drove past Unity Flats, where the IRA lived, even Catholic teenagers cheered us out their windows at us, and nobody threw any bottles or bricks at all. Then we turned up the Shankill itself. As our lorry trundled up the road towards the Black Mountain, gangs of tartan-clad teenagers began to follow us, in the same way they would have followed bands on the 12th of July. My father turned their speakers up full blast as we continued our victory parade up the Shankill. Women with prams stopped beside burnt-out pubs and smiled and pointed at us for their wee children. All my worries about bad hearts and cheating girlfriends and exams and bullets and hoods and robbers were a million miles away now. Everyone was laughing and cheering and applauding us as we made our way up the road. Old Mac even stopped his van and got out, standing with his hands on his hips, as if he was watching an alien spaceship landing. I'm sure he was even smiling with a couple of teeth. We didn't stop singing for the whole length of the road. Not even when the lorry passed over the security ramps and we had to hold on tight in case we fell over in our platforms. A Saracen full of soldiers stopped and they all got out and smiled and cheered with English accents. All the teenagers that were following us on the road sang along with us, even a few skinheads, and they weren't even drunk. We were happy. We were young and alive and brilliant. We were winners. Well, second prize, highly commended. We sang Shang-a-Lang as the gangs ran after us the whole way up to the top of the Shankill. We were Belfast kids. We didn't care what the rest of the world thought of us. We weren't hooligans or thugs or terrorists. We were proud Shankill kids. We weren't dirt. We were winners. The following Monday at school, I told everyone at Belfast Royal Academy about our great victory. But most people weren't very interested because apparently there'd been some big rugby match on the same day. I had another argument in the playground with Ian, formerly of the Tits. He said that if he was going to dress up like an agent in the Lord Mayor's show, it would only be for a serious rock band like Status Quo. I told Ian where he could stick his NME. Thomas O'Hara was the only person who had actually been there and had watched part of our float's victory parade past the City Hall. His dad had taken a picture of our lorry with his Polaroid camera, and Thomas passed it around in chemistry. Judy Carton seemed very impressed, which pleased me greatly now that it was becoming a case of knowing me, knowing you with Sharon Burgess. That Monday evening, I delivered my papers more carefully than ever. There was a photograph of our Bay City Rollers float in the Lord Mayor's show in the centre of one of the inside pages. I utilised all my professional skills to gently fold each newspaper in a way that ensured our picture was never creased as I delivered the news of our great triumph through my customers' letterboxes. I was very proud. I was a winner, so I was. So there you are. That's chapter 19, the penultimate chapter of Paperboy. One more chapter to go tomorrow night. So let me just say hello to a few more people before I bid you good night. Thanks for joining me, Betty O'Riordan. Glad you're enjoying it. Hi, Jane and Damien in Edinburgh. Hello, Brian Smith. Good to have you. Good to see you, Mark McCauley in Kentucky. Now, let me see. Hello, Dave Waddell. Good to have you. Elaine Bonner. Are you going to miss the bedtime stories? Well, I'm thinking about it. I might continue. I'm thinking maybe I should do Bread Boy next level. Hello, Dave Waddell. Just popped in to say how much we're enjoying the nightly readings. We're a couple of chapters behind, though. Hopefully, Bread Boy will follow. Oh, there you go. Just mentioned that. P.S. I won't mention you full running art picks at the Lyric Theatre. Hello, Nave. Yep, I have three more books, so yeah, I might keep going. It looks like we're going to be in lockdown for a while. Why not? So also hello Nigel McComb and Evelyn Brown. Thank you. Hi Joanne and Heather Burns. Thank you. Thanks Nigel and Susan. Lovely to have you all with me. I'll be back tomorrow night at the same time for the final chapter of Paperboy. Until then, stay safe, stay home, stay well, and stay positive. Bye bye.